All right, episode 100, Flat Earth Theory. One of my commenters mentioned Flat Earth Theory yesterday, and this is a fun one to talk about, especially since I've been talking about feminism for the past 3 episodes, so it's nice to talk about something where I won't be eviscerated online. Well, I won't be called the evil, I'll just be called an idiot if I talk about Flat Earth Theory. It's not as painful. Yeah, like I said, one of my commenters mentioned Flat Earth Theory, and this always gets me into an interesting place thinking about this one. So I have to mention solipsism right away. Solipsism, S-O-L-I-P-S-I-S-M. Solipsism. It's the belief that one's own mind is the only thing that is sure to exist. Kind of like the I think, therefore I am concept. And it reminds me of the Matrix, right? If you're in the Matrix, if I'm plugged into the Matrix, like right now, if I'm in the simulated world, none of the stuff around me exists, but I do know my own mind exists. So, like even if I get unplugged from the Matrix and I wake up in the real world, my mind will still be exactly the same. So it was the only thing that was real the whole time. And so, flat Earth theorists, you can call it a conspiracy theory, right? Because you can say, okay, all of the pictures and evidence and data and anything that I would point to that would prove that the world is spherical, you could say, well, I'm a solipsist, so nothing is really real outside of my mind, so how do I know if you're telling me the truth? And then it kind of comes down to trust, but even then, you could have somebody you trust wholeheartedly, and they could, how do you know that they know what they're talking about? Because the only thing you know for sure is that your own mind exists, right? So sometimes it's hard for me to distinguish between a flat earth theorist and a solipsist. To me, they seem like they're very close to the same thing. Because and I also wonder, sometimes I wonder if flat earth theorists even exist. Like, I don't even know if I believe in flat earth theorists. I believe in solipsists. I believe there are solipsists who exist. Technically all of us have had a moment of solipsism, really. We all have that moment once in a while, I think, or at least at one point in our life we all go, wait a second, what if this is all made up? What if I'm the only one? What if this is a Truman Show right now, right? Something like that. What if this is the Matrix? Because to really believe in flat earth theory, to really believe that the earth is flat, what would it take? What would it take for me, if you were to try to convince me? Because I haven't said if I believe it or not. I haven't said. Because I think you can actually make a very interesting argument for it. Because, first of all, didn't everybody believe the earth was flat for tens of thousands of years? Hasn't that been the prevailing theory for a very long time? Or at least that everything beyond the horizon probably, who knows what it was, right? Because thing is, even if you're living in a tribe in the year 20,000 BC or whatever, you probably met people from across the horizon who said, yeah, I live over there and there's land over there too. And you always have to wonder, how do you know that that person actually came from across the mountains? How do you know they didn't just materialize right on the border, right? Maybe they just materialized at the edge of your reality and they just were placed there by some mischievous god or something who's attempting to trick you. That's why this flat earth theory thing is so interesting to me, because what would it take for me personally to be shown that the earth is round or flat, right? If I really didn't trust anybody, if I was truly a solipsist, I think I'd have to go to space. So you'd have to take me off of this planet, put me like 10,000 miles away, and I have to look back at the planet and then be like, yep, that's the shape. But even then, how do I know you're not just tricking me? How do you know If you put me in a rocket ship, maybe I'm just inside of some little simulator. Maybe the windows are holograms or TV screens, you know? Really, there's no way to prove to me for sure, if I'm a solipsist, you can never prove to me that the earth is flat or round. You couldn't prove any of that to me if I was a solipsist. Thing is, though, is I trust other human beings exist. Like, I believe other humans exist. I am not a solipsist. I believe other people are walking around on the planet that come from the same species as me. I believe we're all related. And I do, you know, I've seen evidence that the world is spherical. I've looked through a telescope and seen other planets, and they're all round. And you could tell me that they're spherical and the earth is flat, or you could tell me that they're flat and just facing me all the time, which is strange. Do flat earth theorists believe that the sun is round? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not a very parsimonious explanation for the universe. Because if you think the earth is flat, then how do you explain the moon or Mars or something like that? Because we can see those, and they're clearly round-ish, at least. I don't know enough about flat earth theorists. I don't know how they defend their position. I've seen memes about it. I've always assumed that every flat earth theorist on the internet, or at least like 99% of them, were just kind of trolling or just kind of playing around with a fun idea. Because it is a fun idea, really. And it does get you thinking, like, what if we can't trust NASA? What if we can't trust any of the images we've seen? What if we are being duped by the government for some reason? What if space really is fake and that the entire thing is just a gigantic scheme? It does get you thinking about that stuff, and it does put you in places where you can find interesting, like, at the very least, it's interesting to put your mind in that spot, at the very least, I think. Because the government does lie, right? The government does lie. There are things that they try to trick us on. There are things they try to cover up. There was clearly an incentive to get to space, right? During the Cold War, we were very motivated to be the first ones to the moon. And for sure, somewhere in some planning meeting, somebody was like, what if we fake it, you know? Somebody must have said that somewhere. It just seems, if the moon landing was fake, it does seem somewhat inconceivable to me that it's remained a secret. And also, they put that little thing on the moon, that little reflector thing. I was up on an observatory one time, and this guy had a little laser beam set up, and you can shoot a laser beam at the moon, and it'll bounce back. Supposedly, because there's this retro reflector up there that they left there, right? So that's got to be proof that humans were there. Yeah, I don't understand how. It's just not parsimonious, right? Because I believe in evolution. I believe that the earth, all of the creatures and organisms around me are related to me, and I could not have, excuse me, I could not have diverged from trees. Like, my ancestors could not have diverged from trees 6,000 years ago. It was just not enough time has passed. So some crazy amount of length of time has passed since I have diverged from a tree. And there's genetic evidence for this. And of course, I have never seen DNA with my eyeballs, but it's just about the parsimonious explanation. I just believe that there's genes inside of our cells. I believe we have cells, and each one contains a genome. Those genomes have been evolving over time. They evolve at a certain rate. We can sort of prove how fast genomes can possibly change. So I know trees are like really old, and I know I'm related to them. So I know that there's been a divergence, but it was like millions, a billion years ago-ish. And that means the Earth has been around that long. The Earth has been around that long. And so, was it flat the whole time? And then you have to ask, where did the Earth come from? And again, it's like the most parsimonious explanation is the whole Big Bang theory, right? It really, regardless of how you think the Big Bang happened, or what started it, I like the idea that it was some god that just like snapped his fingers, but it could have just been a thing that happens, It's just a thing that happens. And then there's a bunch of crap in space, and then gravity pulls things together, and then a star forms. Star explodes because it gets too big, shoots a bunch of crap out there. That stuff kind of floats around the star. Again, gravity pulls everything together, and then you got the Earth. Eventually water, eventually life. Here we are. And that all creates a sphere, right? Gravity creates a sphere. you can run this in a simulation. Like, I've actually set up a little simulation on my computer using a real basic little physics engine, and just shot a bunch of crap into like fake space, right? And just watched it revolve around a three-dimensional object, because you can make a fake sun, and things just naturally form spheres. If you have gravity and if you have matter floating around an empty thing, and each little bit has its own gravity, and we have equations that you literally just plug in Newton's equation. It's very easy. It's been around for hundreds of years. You just put that in to run your little model, which is what I did. I've actually done this for fun. Actually for work one time, making a thing. That's a fun story, but I've seen it. I've seen how spheres form from gravity. So it just makes sense to me that the Earth is spherical. It really does. And I've seen pictures, honestly, yeah, and I trust that I'm not being lied to by thousands of people. I really believe the Earth is spherical. But putting myself in the position of a flat Earth theorist is actually very interesting. It's very fun, interesting, and I get it. Like, I get it. I really do. I think I understand why people do it. I think most of the people on the internet who do it are doing it for fun. They're just kind of like trolling or just playing a game. I don't know how many people out there truly believe the Earth is flat. And if you believe the Earth is flat, you probably believe some other things, right? To explain other elements of the universe, if you believe the Earth is a coin, then where did trees come from? You must think that there was a God. I assume flat Earth theorists are also theists. I don't know how you can be a flat Earth theorist and not believe there's some sort of creator. I don't know. And then I don't know how you explain the behavior of stars and planets and things. So there must be a very, very different model of the universe that you have. If you really think the Earth is flat, then explaining everything else becomes wildly difficult, in my opinion. But it's still fun. It's fun to think about. You know, and people make fun of flat Earth theorists all the time, and I don't think they should be shat on the way they're shat on. First of all, because your ancestors probably believed the Earth was flat. Like, for probably 99% of the human history, I think there's some arguments to be made about some older civilizations, and they understood some things about the stars and probably about our own planet. You know, just to go further down the rabbit hole here, I think that there were civilizations before 12,000 years ago. I think we had advanced civilizations for tens of thousands of years. During the time where we were taught that there were hunter-gatherers for about 50,000 years. And then suddenly, 12,000 years ago, they learned how to plant food and make civilization. I think that that's nonsense. I think that we've had civilizations forming and collapsing for much longer than we were taught in school. That, to me, makes sense. 12,000 years ago, the Earth was hit by a gigantic asteroid that just like reset everything. After that reset, we rediscovered agriculture, and then in the year whatever, so whenever school was invented, and whenever I went to school, so in the year 1999 or whatever, whenever I was taught what happened in history, they taught me that it was hunter-gatherers from like the year like 100,000 BC until 10,000 BC. That was all just hunter-gatherer tribes. I think that that's false. And I think that there is some interesting evidence to show that some of those civilizations might have had knowledge comparable to ours, at least. And they might have had a knowledge they might have known about the Earth being round. They might have known about the space and how space works. They might have known things that we would think are very advanced today, right? Comparable to today, at least. I also think one of these civilizations, like I think that the Atlantis story, I'm just going to go way off the rails here. This is a flat Earth theory video, so whatever. I think Atlantis was real. I think Atlantis was a real place. I don't know, they probably didn't call it Atlantis. It's called something else. But the thing that we refer to when we're talking about Atlantis, I think was a real place. And also, I think that whatever built the Big Pyramid in Egypt and the Sphinx, whatever civilization built that one big pyramid, I'm not talking about all the other 1,000 pyramids, I'm talking about that one big one. I think whatever built that one big one was not the Egyptians. I think something built it before the Egyptians. The Egyptians built around it. They built near it. They probably added to it and built on top of it. You know, they went inside the pyramid. They were like, wow, this thing's crazy. And then they did stuff with it. But I don't think it was built by the Egyptians. Not 4,000 years ago, not 6,000 years ago or whatever. I think it was built more than 12,000 years ago. Same thing with the Sphinx. There's a lot of evidence to show that the Sphinx was built a super long time ago, like a crazy long time ago. And it couldn't have been built by hunter-gatherers, so it was built by a civilization that might have known that the earth wasn't flat. So what I'm trying to say here is that I think the idea that the whole human race has been had this like limited understanding of the world until now, until like the past 500 years, is like, it's just the arrogance of modern times. I think we are in many ways arrogant. There's things that we have lost. Like in a lot of ways, we are dumber than some of our ancestors, right? This is not an upward trend always, right? This is not, and it's not even like, okay, the Romans and the, you know, we have this idea that like, okay, it was like the Mesopotamians, they were number one, and then it was the Egyptians, and then it was the Greeks, and then the Romans, and then the British, and then the Americans. Like there's like this pattern that everybody sort of sees, and then each one has been getting slightly more enlightened or something like that. Where there's been like periods of dark ages in between each one where there was like unenlightenment again, and then somehow now we're at the peak. Now we're like really doing it. I just think now we have the internet. Now we have electricity. That doesn't make us smarter. We're still monkeys. We're still idiots in so many different ways. Clearly. I mean, look around at the world. There's people fucking about, doing idiotic things constantly. Like, what is shampoo? What is that? The heck are we doing? See this beautiful hair right here? I mean, I know it's not always beautiful, but, and I don't usually, for videos, make it look that good, but this is the result of no shampoo right here. I think shampoo's a scam. And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of the things we were taught in school are just not true, not correct. We were taught that hunter-gatherers existed for tens of thousands of years, and that only 10,000 years ago did we learn how to do agriculture. I think that that's just false, and it's taught to us as if it's true. They teach us that the pyramids were built by the Egyptians as a tomb for a pharaoh. I think that that's false. I don't think that's true. I don't think that they spent some ungodly amount of resources to bury one guy. I don't think that that's true. We look back at these old things like Stonehenge and like these old structures, and we just say, yeah, it was religion. Yeah, religion. You know, they were religious. You know, they like some god, right? Oh yeah, the sun god. You know. Oh yeah, the space or stars or whatever, right? And, you know, these structures do align with astrological patterns, but, you know, we do this thing where we don't humanize people of the past. We don't, like, actually think about what it would be there. Like, we don't imagine being lucid in that moment. Imagine actually being there while the pyramid's getting built. Like, put yourself in that spot. What? Like, these are human beings, right? They have memes of a kind, right? They have jokes and stories they were telling. There'd be dramas, there'd be leaders, like, doing things. There'd be the AOC of the time, right? There'd be, like, there'd be somebody, you know, there'd be all that stuff. All the same complexities that exist now would exist back then. Like, there would be disagreements that are very hot about who knows what. And I don't think it was so primitive. It wasn't just like, oh, is the sun god real or not? Like, I don't think that it was always... They probably had conversations and ideas as complex as ours today. It's our own arrogance that makes us think that, like, oh, we know what DNA is, so, like, we have special knowledge. No. We're just arrogant. All of us. Modern times. Arrogant of modern times. I think there's people back then that were smarter than people today. I mean, they built the fucking pyramid. Whoever built the pyramid, that one big one, was, like, can we even build that thing today? Can we? What would it take? Like, could Elon Musk build that pyramid today if he really put his mind to it? I don't know. It would take, I mean, I've been watching a lot of Bright Insight videos. Go check out that guy's channel. He's great. He's convinced me that the pyramid is older than the Egyptians, and that the Sphinx is definitely older than the Egyptians. Definitely. Especially the Sphinx. There's a lot of evidence to show that it's like way older than the Egyptians. So the Egyptians must have found it and then built there. Or like for some reason, the Egyptian civilization reformed or like it became a thing in the same spot where an older civilization existed previously. And there's other things like Göbekli Tepe. So what I'm trying to say here is that there's a lot we don't know. And there's a lot that previous civilizations have known that we don't know. Is the earth flat? I don't think so. But I also don't think previous civilizations really thought that either. I think that a lot of civilizations have figured out a lot about the world. And yeah, it's mostly spherical. It's kind of a squish sphere as far as I know. But I don't know, I don't really... This YouTube commenter said something flat earth. Just mentioned flat earth in a comment. I'm not going to call this person out because I know that there's people on the internet will just shit on this person for saying that. People love to shit on other people for having things that are like incorrect beliefs, even though they themselves are filled with incorrect beliefs. Like, we all love to be like, those idiots on the flat earth thing, those morons. But it's, how much moronic can they possibly be, right? How much more moronic? I don't know. 20 minutes in, what am I going to end this with? Yeah, solipsism. Like I was talking about, solipsism. It's this idea that the only thing that really exists is your mind. And if you start at that point, you could easily get to flat earth theory. Easily. I mean, how do I know that? Look at me. Look, I'm looking at the horizon right now. All I see is pretty flat. So who's to tell? Who's to tell me? I've been on airplanes. I've been to Australia, been to China. But, that could just be on the other side of a flat coin. I mean, on the other end of a flat coin. I've never seen the curvature of the earth. And even if I did, how do I know that's not just the edge of a flat coin? Maybe the coin is slightly concave. Maybe that's what the curvature is. Maybe NASA is lying to us. Maybe the government's been lying to us. All the images I've ever seen of Earth are just CGI or something. It seems really unlikely. It's just not a very good answer for all of the things that exist on the planet. I can't, normally I try to be very generous to people that believe this kind of stuff. I'm not very generous to a lot of very extreme left-wing people. And it seems to me that flat earth theorists are probably more likely to be on the right wing. That's what I would guess. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't really know who they are. I don't know what a flat earth theorist really is. But conspiracies do happen. Like, people use this word conspiracy theorist as an insult. And it's weird because we all, like, there's evidence of conspiracies that have occurred like 1 billion times in human history. There's always been conspiracies. The founding of the United States was technically a conspiracy. So it was people in a room secretly conspiring to do something under the noses of everybody else, right? Of the government, they secretly conspired to form a new government, to form a new thing. And it worked. And we don't call it a conspiracy theory, I guess, because it's a fact now. They did it. But at the time, if I had been saying, like, hey, there's a bunch of dudes in this building over here, and they're signing a thing, and they're going to overthrow the government, and they're trying to take over the world, and, like, I would have sounded exactly like Alex Jones. I would have sounded like, the globalists are up to something. So it's like, for some reason, there's, like, certain narratives about people that we just are like, of course this is true, and then other narratives that are not true at all. And then you just get to stuff like Jeffrey Epstein and all that. And, the conspiracy rabbit hole is deep. And there's a lot that's actually really... stuff that's probably true, Stuff that's probably true. This is episode 100. This is quite a portfolio of ideas I've put out here, I think. Flat Earth theory is a good number 100. Good way to end the year, too, pretty much. December 30th, 2021. So many of the things we're taught in school were lies. That's why Flat Earth theory is so curious to me. So many things that were taught by, like, adults, right, throughout my whole life. Born in 1993, assumed for most of my life that adults, like, knew everything, right? I believed all of the things that the adults were telling me all the time. And it turns out, like, 90% of the stuff they told me was just nonsense. It's just stuff that they bought into. So, my trust in all of things has just been eroding over time as I've gotten older. And I don't know if that's a regular experience. Maybe that's just loss of innocence over time. But truly, so many different people and so many different institutions have just been propagating false narratives that I don't even know what's real anymore. So it may, like, flat earth theorists are barely crazy to me now, because I'm like, all right, well, so many other things are lies, then why not that? You know, why not the earth being spherical? That's a lie too. That's kind of how I see it. Like, I believe the earth is spherical. I believe that the globe is a globe, and it just makes sense to me, and for a lot of reasons. But all right, I'm about done. I'll see you later. Bye.